there's an assumption on his on what he's claiming that I wasn't doing anything to clear up the trash, as the citation calls my very valuable equipment materials. It was scattered by the first citation to take down my structural buildings, which the planning department told me would be okay because they were temporary, but I took them down, exposed all of my materials. I've suffered quite a few losses, and I proceeded to engage the planning permitting process to try and get a compliant addition to my property. And that process has not stopped. From the very first from the time I took the structures down, I had a lot of materials that had been inventoried. Those structures were already in the computer as warehouses. Taking them down just has really cost me a tremendous amount of money. Getting a permit to put the building that I need back up, a 900 square foot roof over structure to keep the rain and the weather off of valuable equipment, has been ongoing since the very moment I took those structures down. And I have the documentation to substantiate that.
Okay. Sir, what documentation do you have?
Conducting business, because I'm in the deep water diving business, and that's where my markets are. And by the time I got back, I had a couple of weeks to work at getting shelving and everything on the pad to get my scattered stuff under as much protection as I can. I don't own a junkyard. I don't own junk. Many of my things have become junk because of the delays in this process, but that's a different issue. But on April 9th of 2014, I brought in a crane from Kiesling Construction, and they've moved my equipment quite a bit. And I don't know if Charlie has pictures available here, but if he doesn't, I do before and after pictures. I have Connex boxes that are also on the property. So the pictures that he's submitting to show my junkyard is the result of me moving these large, expensive dive operations pieces of equipment to a different area on my yard so I could put them close together and start tying them together. There's 3 Connex boxes that make up a saturation dive control system. You have a SatTech van, you have a dive control van, and you have an equipment control van. I own all 3 of them. They're all in my yard, and they were on the parking side temporarily, and I had them in places where I had lots of materials either in them or tied to them securely, and I have pictures of those with me. But to continue, I moved, and in the process of moving them, I had to take all the ropes off of them. This is April 9th of last year, or this year. And in doing so, I laid down a lot of materials in the yard. And again, I have pictures to show where the Connex was and the resulting chaos. But Charlie is presenting the case as if nothing has happened, and I've spent thousands of dollars for 2 years trying to get up and running, and I can't protect my material and equipment without that structure, and I'm in the business of putting human lives at risk. So before I can do that, I have to prove that I can own and operate a shop. In May of 2014, well, Charlie, where was Charlie? So in May of 2014, well, Charlie, where was Charlie? So on April 9th, I moved almost everything in the yard. You know, I've hired multiple forklifts to try and save my equipment from the weather exposure, much of it unsuccessfully. I've lost a lot of money here. But Charlie, and I don't know why, I'd like to know if there was a complaint the second time or if he was just doing a follow-up.
Well, I think that's...
So he inspected it on May 19th, and that's the first time I've learned. As an aside, he informed me that my Connex boxes are not legal in Charlotte County. So at that point in time, assuming he's correct, because he has no reason not to be straight up about the laws, and he knows them, at that time I recognized that I can't do business here, that I have a shallow water diving company, I have a contracting company, and I have a deep water company, which is where my substantial assets are located, and all of them are in Port Charlotte. I set all of these businesses up here to go to work, and now I can't operate my diving company out of here. So my diving company, Stellar Diving Services, was the facility that owned that building. It no longer does own it. I began the process, well, actually also I didn't expect this consequence of moving my Connex boxes. I didn't know my Connex boxes aren't legal in Charlotte County. They're worth over $500,000, and they're the heart of my saturation diving system. So I made the determination to basically quit claim the building to myself so I could do the work myself, as well as start looking for a new home for my saturation diving company.
And when did you quit claim the title of the property?
I have a couple of questions. Can I have some clarification?
Sir, today's the day that you present your evidence, and questions should have been addressed to the Code Enforcement Board before today. Sir, it appears that the equipment, at least some, see if they had any further evidence. Sir, it appears that the equipment, at least some portion of it, the box material that you described for us, is still on the property. It appears that the violations and
I'm sorry, what is still on the property?
I think you'd find it as a box material of some sort, and perhaps my nomenclature isn't correct. But there's equipment and items out on the property. I do find that still is a continuing violation. Therefore, I'm going to approve the affidavit and the requested fine. What I would suggest to you, if you can, is you can work with the Code Enforcement Department to try to get this resolved. I don't know.
I've been at it for a year and a half, and I've spent almost $100,000 in losses and expenses, and I haven't earned a nickel yet.
Well, I understand. Hopefully that'll change for you in the future, sir, but I have to go with the evidence in the case, and so
Okay, and
that's my
the
ruling.
evidence is
That you're still,
a nondescript box? What is the evidence, sir?
my nomenclature may not be correct, but there is.
Well, there isn't any junk on my property, so the nomenclature isn't correct, but what is it exactly that I'm being cited for now?
If I could, the May 19th pictures that I s-
Graphs now, and I know this is equipment to you. The county sees it differently, and I've made my ruling that I'm going to enforce the affidavit of noncompliance as stated.
So I can't successfully get a permit, but I can get fined for not having the property, having my materials under roof in a permitted building that I can't get.
Sir, we're not here about that today. You'll have to address that with the, I've got a very narrow.
I know you have an
look
agenda,
at it,
but where would I?